Welcome to the Abundance Code, the podcast where we delve into the secrets of unlocking abundance in mind, money, and meaning. I'm your host, Jason Stanley. See the roadblocks in your path to get to that goal. See the setbacks that could potentially come. Start to visualize those and start to visualize yourself being able to overcome those. How you're going to react to something if it hits you and knocks you off course. You know, rather than saying, hey, I'm going to start this business or I'm going to start doing this, you say, I am doing this, right? I'm doing this right now. Welcome back to the Abundance Code. I'm Jason Stanley. Today, we're going to be talking about goals, vision casting, and different strategies to help you achieve what you're after. And I'm not of the mind of, write your goals down and all that stuff. Wayne Dyer, who was a mindset guru, motivational speaker type person, wrote a lot of books, very, very great individual, had a lot of really good advice to life. And one of his pieces of advice around goals was you had to believe it before you could see it. You know, and we live in this world where we always say, I'll believe it when I see it, right? And he said, no. You have to believe what you're after is possible before you can see it. And he's right on a lot of fronts. If you think about it, and as much as I might want to become an NBA player, I don't believe that's possible. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the ball handling skills, nor do I have the speed or athleticism to do so, right? So I can want it all I want, but at the end of the day, I know deep down inside that that is not something that I believe is possible for me. And some people do have that belief. And some people go on and they become the greatest basketball player. They can become the greatest scientist. They can become the greatest business person. And they have that belief. They have that confidence in themselves, you know. And I used to train people in the financial industry. And one of the stories that I talked about was how long it took for you to become a millionaire in the business that we're in. And you know, most people had this guideline based on what a lot of other people told them of 10 years. 10 years was like this magic number that if you did this type of work and you did it right over a 10-year period, you'd probably become a millionaire. But the person who did it the fastest was a guy who did it in 36 months. And so my point was always, well, what do you think made the difference between that person and everybody else who's saying that it's 10 years? Well, it was the belief. It was the belief that I could do it, right? It's the belief that he did it in that time period. He believed that it was possible. And beliefs drive a lot of what we do. And not all the time, right, are our beliefs based in reality. If you don't believe me, a lot of you on this podcast or a lot of you listening to this podcast at some point in time probably believed in Santa Claus. And so, you know, and some of you may even be surprised right now to hear that Santa Claus isn't real. So if I just ruined it for you, I'm very sorry. Hopefully your kids aren't in the car. Anyway, but my point is that our beliefs don't have to be based in reality. You know, and so a lot of times we can believe things that aren't accurate and they determine our life, right? They determine how we live and the type of passion that we live with. So I do think it's very important that we believe in what we're trying to achieve. But, you know, I've set goals in my life where I thought maybe I could do it, but maybe I didn't believe it all the way, right? Maybe I wasn't fully sold on it, but I knew that I wanted to accomplish it. But maybe I had a little bit of insecurity in myself. Maybe I questioned my own abilities in it. And one of the methods that I use to help overcome that is to start talking about what I'm doing, to start talking about what I want to achieve. I'll oftentimes talk about something as if I'm currently doing it or as if I've have done it or completed something before I've even started. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, that's lying. And I guess in some ways it could be, but it kind of forces you also to make it true. It forces you to, you know, start focusing on how you can accomplish it. I'll give you an example. You know, I love flying airplanes. I've been a pilot for a long time. In fact, there's a joke, you know how you know you're at a party with a pilot, and don't worry, he'll tell you. So I've been flying airplanes for a long time. I love doing it. And when I first went and took my first lesson, almost immediately afterwards, I would tell people that I was a pilot. I would tell people that I was a pilot. And it wasn't that I was lying to them. It wasn't that I was trying to mislead them. But what I was doing was keeping myself focused on what I wanted to achieve and focused on becoming that, right? And so a lot of times you'll hear people say, fake it until you make it. And I would say, rather than fake it till you make it, talk about it till you become it. You know, become that person. You have to become what you want to be before you'll achieve those goals, right? And in my world, you know, we have different production levels and stuff like that. And like I was just giving you the analogy of the story of the $1 Million Producer, you know. And so a lot of times I would hear people say, well, when I become, you know, this level of producer, then I'll do these things. When I become, you know, $1 million producer, then I'm going to do these things. And my point is always, no, you start living and start acting like that $1 million producer does right now, and you'll actually become it. And it's really amazing when you see how that works in your life. You know, vision casting and talking about these things. Again, it's something that we don't do a whole lot. I think a lot of times we're worried. We're worried that we won't make it true. And that's okay too. We're worried that people will think that we're lying. You know, I think probably, you know, one of the people that I see do this a lot in a very public manner is Donald Trump when he was president this last time. If you think about when we locked down for COVID and he was saying, you know, all this will be passed and will be open within, you know, a certain amount of time, right? And of course, it didn't happen, but he's putting it out there as a way of not lying, but I think he's really trying to put it out there as something that he would like to see happen, something that he would like to have happen. And in that situation, you know, he was a bit out of his element. He could not control the outcome of that. And so in a situation like that, I don't think it's a good idea, right? I don't think it's good to go out and try to say something that you would like to see happen that you can't control the outcome of. But I think we can apply certain things to our life like this, where we start talking about what we're after. We start talking about those things as if they've happened. You'll hear a lot of people talk about visualizing, right? You know, visualize what you want to achieve as if it's already there and that kind of stuff. And actually the research on that shows that that's actually not very beneficial to us because our mind really doesn't know the difference between reality and make-believe. And as much as we'd like to believe it does, it really doesn't. Our subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and make-believe. That's why you can watch a movie and get scared, right? Because your subconscious mind is watching these things and it's starting to kind of be lulled into the storyline, right? And you start to become, you start to see yourself in that story. And you can watch that scary movie, you get scared. Watch a happy movie, you get happy. You watch a sad movie, you get sad. You know, and so the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the reality and the make-believe. And so when we start talking about things as if they've already happened, when we say, you know, start to just sit down and visualize something and we just visualize it as happened, right? We don't see the work that goes into it. So one of the practices I like to do on visualization is if I'm going to visualize something that I want to accomplish, I want to see what the roadblocks are in my way. I want to visualize myself overcoming obstacles to achieve those things, right? And then when I hit with an obstacle, when I hit with a setback, I have a lot more confidence going into it than I would otherwise. I have a lot more confidence than if I had just visualized seeing something as if it were already completed, right? Because there's a work aspect that goes into everything. So again, I think a couple different things, you know, when it comes down to goal setting. One of the things that I've done in my own life is, you know, is write down my goals. And you hear this a lot. Harvard's done a lot of studies on it. There's a lot of research behind writing stuff down. You think about it when you were in school. If you needed to memorize something, one of the best ways to memorize it was to write it down, right? And that starts to program the mind, right? It starts to program the computer that is our brain. And it starts to work its way in there. And the mind really wants to solve a problem. The mind is there to help us solve these problems, help us achieve things. And so, you know, you combine that with the visualization aspect. And again, not just visualizing something as if you've already done it, but taking the time to kind of visualize yourself going through what it's going to take to get there, the work, the hours that it's going to take you to get, to where you want to go, the setbacks that you may face, the obstacles that you've got to overcome to get there, right? If you're trying to lose weight, instead of visualizing yourself already where you want to be, maybe visualizing the struggle a little bit too, of having to overcome the temptation of certain foods and stuff like that. So doing that, right, when you're faced with those time periods, when you're faced with that obstacle, then you have a lot more confidence to work through it. You have a lot more confidence that you can overcome it, right? And ultimately get to that goal. And then the third part is, like I said, start talking to people. Start talking to people about stuff. Now, obviously, if you're 400 pounds, you can't go, hey, I only weigh 200 pounds. Nobody's going to believe it. All right. So you got to be within reason. But if you're working on something and you say, hey, I'm going to start this company, or, rather than saying, hey, I'm going to start this business, or I'm going to start doing this, you say, I am doing this, right? I'm doing this right now. I'm starting this company, and start talking about it in a form that's active rather than something that's going to happen. Start talking about it as in a present tense, as if you are actively working on it. And I think for me, right, and I don't know if this will work for you, but for me, what that has done is it's kind of pushed a little bit of motivation towards me, right? It's pushed me to motivate myself to actually go do what I'm saying that I'm going to do, because I want to make it true. I don't want to be seen as the person of, oh yeah, he always says he's doing something, he never does it, right? And we all know people like that, right? People that talk about things but never go out and do them. So there's that action step to it. There's a lot of different things when it comes to how you set goals, a lot of different strategies. You'll hear things like SMART goals, right? So it's got to be specific, measurable, achievable, all these different things, all these different acronyms around goals. And I'm not a big believer in a lot of those things. They work for some people, and maybe they work for you. And if they do, great, use it, keep doing it. The point of this is not to try to change your mind on something, but maybe just give you a little bit of a different way of looking at things. But I've always adopted Wayne Dyer's approach to goals, and that is you have to believe it before you can see it. But in the time periods that I don't fully believe it to the core of my being, a lot of the times the way I'll test whether or not I can start to believe it, or the way that I can overcome some of my insecurities, and whether or not I'm able to accomplish something, is to start talking about it. And when I start talking about it, I suddenly either find that I have a lot of passion for it and I want to make it true, or it's not something that I really want at all. And that's the beauty of it. There's something about that process of actually putting that out, whether you're putting it out to the universe, to God, or just to people, right? Is to talk about it and start seeing people's reaction. It's interesting to me. A lot of times people, want to tell you why something can't happen, why you can't achieve something. But oftentimes, more than not, if you're surrounded with the right type of people want you to be successful. And so if you're sharing an idea with them, if you're sharing the idea of, hey, I'm doing this right now, I'm starting this business right now, and that kind of stuff, a lot of times it'll be met with a lot of optimism, and the times that it's not, I always take a step back and reassess that goal and say, am I missing something here? Maybe this isn't a great idea. Maybe it is a good idea. Maybe they just don't see it, and that kind of stuff. So it gives you an idea, it gives you a bellwether by which to gauge certain things off of as well. So, I do a lot of exercises around goal setting. I write my goals every year. I have, my 1 year, my 3 year, my 6 year goals written down. I write them in an action form of saying I will accomplish, and I put a date on it, right? And sometimes I hit those goals at that date, and sometimes I don't. Other times I'll just have a list of goals that I'd like to see in my life. I've done that practice for a long time. I did it after reading the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. In that book, there was a gentleman who wrote a whole bunch of goals down and went and accomplished them. I think he wrote them when he's like, 17 or something. I did that practice at 19, and some of those goals have come to fruition. Some of them have come true, and some of them were just plain stupid, because I was 19 years old and, was in a different headspace. I think one of the goals was even to have a pet tiger. I don't know who the hell writes that stupid thing down, but so your goals will change over time, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having your goals change, allowing that process, but writing things down, I think, helps solidify that. And suddenly you start to create a vision and start to create a direction for your life of things that you would like to see. If you have a family, as your kids grow up, one of the things that I encourage people to do all the time is to set and write out what your family values are. Write down what you want your family to stand for. Families are really important, and it's probably the most beneficial asset we could have if we do it right. And most of us don't. We just wing it. And there's a lot of people that are very successful, a lot of really big families that you can go to and you can ask them what the family values are, and they can tell you. And so, that's one of the things that I've been able to see working with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds is what really successful people do when it comes to that. And so what they're doing there is they're taking not only their personal goals, but now they're setting goals as a family, and that becomes even more powerful. So I think goals are really important for us to have, but there's a process that you have to take. I do think that you have to write them down. All the research shows that if you write your goals down, you're a lot more likely to achieve them, And then I think that you have to be somewhat fluid in it. You have to realize that you're not going to achieve every single thing that you write down. And for those things that you're really passionate about, the things that you really want to accomplish, I think when you start talking about it, right, it kind of pushes you to start acting on it. It pushes you to start making that goal real, not just for yourself, but for the people that you've talked to about it. And we're always focused on the end result, right? The outcome of the accomplishment. We don't ever really talk about the accomplishment. And so when we set goals, right, and we push ourselves and we grow, that's the art of accomplishment. Right? When we achieve something, that's the art of accomplishment. And the art of accomplishment really is about recognizing the process that you went through, because everything that you work towards, anything that you're working towards to try to achieve is going to force you to change, is going to force you to grow in some way, is going to force you to adopt a new way of living, right? If not, then you'll hit the goal and you won't ever really hold on to it, right? We see that happen when it comes to health and weight loss and stuff. People set a goal of, I want to lose 10 pounds, and they lose 10 pounds and they gain 30 back, right? Something like that. And so the reason is a lot of people view it as a destination rather than a lifestyle. And I would say that each one of your goals should change your lifestyle in some form or fashion. And when we talk about lifestyle, I'm not talking about just your material life, right? Not just your material possessions. It should make you a better person spiritually. It should make you a better person as a family member. It should make you better with the people around you, as a citizen of the great world that we live in. So, pushing yourself and looking at things in a little different fashion, right? And enjoying the process by which you accomplish your goals, I think gives you a lot more fulfillment. So, recap real fast. 1, write your goals down. I believe that you should write them in an action form, but at the minimum, write them down. One of the things that I do on a regular basis is I read my goals out loud on a regular basis. I usually do it in front of the mirror, and I want to do it right. And I adopted this from Tony Robbins. I want to do it and, holding my body and my physiology in a certain way, right? So that it helps control my state. And Tony's really great about teaching that, about how you use your body to help change your mindset and put some emotion behind it. Right. And then if it's something that I'm questioning my own abilities on, if I'm questioning, if I maybe got a little bit of insecurity, I know it's something that I want to accomplish, but I got a little bit of insecurity, I start talking about it as if I'm doing it right now. Right. Hey, I'm going to do this, or I'm doing this. Right. And kind of the pilot story. Hey, I'm a pilot. You know, even though I hadn't achieved that rating, I knew how to fly an airplane. So I guess in that way I was a pilot. But I hadn't achieved the rating just yet. Right. But it did keep me motivated to make sure that I learned the material, that became proficient at it, that I was able to pass the test and all of the requisites necessary to accomplish that goal. And the third thing is to take time to, you know, visualize your goals. You'll hear people talk about setting up vision boards and stuff like that. And I've done those things. And I think there's a lot of value to it. Vision board is just putting pictures that represent certain things that you want to accomplish on a board. And again, I would encourage you not to make the material possessions your ultimate goal. It's okay to have a goal to want something new. It's okay to have a goal to have, you know, a new house or a new car, something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think within there, you also need to have goals that are spiritual related for your belief systems. You need to have goals that help you become a better person in society and, you know, with your family and your kids and so on and so forth. And so I think vision boards are great because they give you that ability to look at something, visualize it, but rather than just visualizing it as accomplished, right? See the roadblocks in your path to get to that goal. See the setbacks that could potentially come. Start to visualize those and start to visualize yourself being able to overcome those. How you're going to react to something if it hits you and knocks you off course, right? And then you can just make a small adjustment and you get back on course and you can generally achieve those goals. Now, again, the thing to keep in mind is you're not going to achieve everything that you write down. And you may not even achieve it in the time period that you want. You know, what I'm doing right now in my life and my career and stuff is a goal that I wrote in 2005. And I was sitting in Camp Taji, Iraq, and on a combat tour, you know, and I wrote that goal in 2005 to have my own financial firm someday. And that didn't really start to happen until 2019. And since 2019, it's exploded, it's grown, and we've been very successful in that. And it's been very, very good to see. But again, some things are going to take a little bit longer, you know, and usually, you know, sometimes you'll believe something happens really fast and it won't and that kind of stuff. What I would say is don't get discouraged. Revisit it, read that goal on a regular basis, and talk about it. Continue to talk about it. And ultimately, I believe that it comes to fruition that way. So hopefully you found this useful. I know that goal setting is a pretty common topic, pretty basic topic that, you know, a lot of people talk about. There's a lot of different strategies to it. So this is just maybe one more strategy that you can add to your arsenal to help you accomplish things. In the meantime, as I always say, buck the status quo and continue to grow. Again, I'm Jason Stanley, and I'll talk to you guys next time.